Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the OK Grognard Show. It is Thursday, November 26, 2020, 10 a.m. Central ish in beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Well, it's Thursday, and that makes it a GMing Tips Day. But it's also Thanksgiving, so thanks. If you're in the United States, don't forget the thanks part can only happen with the giving part. Morning, George. How you doing? It's gonna be kind of a drab day here in Lake Geneva. There's a little bit of overcast, shadowy clouds, and a bit of leftover rain from the last couple of days. Nevertheless, what we got here? What do we got here? TPK. You know what? Last week we left off on this one, which intimates that a TPK, a total party kill, is part of the trick bag of the GM. And you know what? That's not true. The trick bag consists of dealing with a TPK when it happens. So very few people that run games that I know attempt to have TPKs. And that's because if you want them, it's impossible not to have them. You just keep throwing more stuff at the players until their character resources are depleted and they're overwhelmed and they're dead. So, when people talk about a TPK DM as if they do it on purpose, 99.9% don't. It happens either through folly or of the players or bad dice rolling or perhaps a mistake made by the GM that causes things to get out of hand, and then it becomes that. Because, you're supposed to create challenges. The GM is supposed to create challenges for the player characters and for the players through their characters to solve, to overcome, to battle against and be triumphant. So when something goes down where all the player characters are lying on the ground and there's no one to drag their sorry carcasses back to town and take them to the temple and get them raised, or whatever the trope is in your particular campaign, then something has gone off the rails. I will take a moment to say that there are a select few GMs that are definitely out to kill all the player characters in a game. It's one-shot situations, as far as I know, exclusively. They happen in games at there you go. George is right on it. The only time I saw TPK as a badge of honor was at cons where a VIP DM kills off the party like a Gary Con. Exactly where I was going. Whether you have Jim Ward, who is humorously doing it and having a grand old time while he is, and making sure that the players, at least in a tongue-in-cheek way, are being told, well, you're bringing this on yourself. Do you want to open the box? I think I heard you say you were going to open the box. Make a saving throw. Boom, it's all over before you know it. And the player says, well, I did say I was opening the box. As if being anywhere near the box without opening it was going to save them in some way. They were doomed as soon as Jim said, there's a box, regardless of whether it was on a table or under a bed or on a plinth or in their pocket suddenly. Where did that come from? Well, it's a box. A box implies it can be opened, and of course, that's the temptation that gets laid out. Another Gary Con VIP who DMs, who often brings about, one has to say purposefully, a TPK is, and not always. And here's where Tim is different. Tim Kask. I've been in adventures where not everyone has died, and I've seen adventuring situations where no one has died in a Tim game, in a Cascoid event. Certainly, his Tower of Gygax things were always meant to be destructively delicious, and he has fun doing those. He's not as mocking as Jim Ward, who enjoys doing it and teasing you all the way to death's door. But Tim is just as deadly and just as devious. Don't let him fool you if he tries to play it off with all humility as humbly, accidentally. No. If he wants you dead in a Tower of Gygax scenario or whatever they're calling it to avoid the lawyer, then yeah, you're dead if he wants you dead. That's all there is to that. But barring those situations and a few others, most TPKs happen quite by chance and quite by accident and quite unintentionally. And let me just say, if you think there's a GM out there who likes a TPK, you couldn't be more wrong. Some like them less than others, but nobody likes them. So there are definitely GMs who are who run very story-driven games that find TPKs to have ruined everything. And that's one of the downsides of running story-driven games is, there's a few ways to pick the ball back up after something like that happens. Having a new generation of PCs be rolled up. In other words, have everybody roll up new PCs and have them be relatives or offspring or descendants or heirs to whatever the previous group was working on. I think we discussed this a little bit last time. And find a way to create, well, what we discussed in one episode, institutional memory. Find a way to have that carry on from the one group to the next. And then, of course, your story is, and I don't want to say truncated, put on pause. What's the word I'm looking for where something starts and it stops again and there's an interval in between? There's a hiatus from the story just long enough to get it back on track. George will come up with a word. Lex fire. That means quickly giving you a word. It's a literal definition of that. So, George, if you can't come up with it, I'm afraid you're going to have to change your handle. But, kidding. The other thing you can do is, we were talking about who hates it most. Even a GM that's totally sandbox or as close on the spectrum as you can be away from story and towards sandbox, where the game, whatever game you're playing, allows for a byproduct of a story. The story comes from gameplay, um, primarily. Even in situations like that, um, there's still, for the player characters, there are still memories, things that they discovered, things that they know that can go on and become part of, because it's an ongoing story, right? I mean, whatever sessions, whatever games, whatever exploration they have done in previous games is part of a story now. We don't know where it's going with the new games, but we know where it's been, unless all of the characters die. And then there's no frame of reference. You run across something new and somebody says, "Oh yeah, that was like that time that we ran into the thing in the dungeon and we found that secret door and and we never went beyond it." Well, you never gone beyond it now. It wasn't you that found it. It was some other character. So you can't even go there now, and you know, not with any sense of it. Speaking of changing your handle, oh, okay, all right, yeah. Happy Thanksgiving. Thanks. I saw you got interested in the Mandalorian sub. Hey, too, Rick. I saw, Sarah, that you were looking at that Boxing Day event. White Fiddler as a. Is it Fiedler? It's only one D. I'm not sure. I think it's Fiddler. Has set up a Boxing Day, a day after Christmas gaming day. He's got a Discord server. Furiously Eclectic People, I believe. You should check that out. If you know you're going to be free the day after Christmas and want to get into some virtual gaming through a Discord and probably some people who use Roll20, some people who use something else. Be something to do. Oh, John, how you doing? Happy Thanksgiving to you too. Wow, we got all sorts of folk in here. George, the TPK is so over for everyone. A kidnapped, diseased, injured player or players from a party can be just or more so devastating. Yeah, it's true. If all of those things can definitely set a party back, set an adventuring group back, disease, severe injury, injured player or players, or are you saying injured player characters? Like somebody who uses a critical failure table where somebody can be permanently paralyzed or lose a limb, or characters. Okay, so yeah, we're on the same page. And kidnapped, certainly. If a group gets captured, well, first and foremost, all their equipment's gone, right? That includes spell books for magic users. So, and I'm talking first edition stuff here. So, as powerful as a group can be, I think a lot of well, a good share of that comes from leveling up and gaining more hit points and more abilities and more spells. Greater chance to hit. All of those things are true, but equipment, magic items, of course, spell books for magic users, all of those things become so integral to the process of becoming higher level characters that it's hard to imagine that a group that's kidnapped and loses all of that stuff right out of the gate. Even if they manage to escape, there are adventures where they throw everybody into the dungeon and maybe they find a knife stuck into a skeleton off in a cell, and that's like their only weapon, and maybe they can yank some of the bits of chain out of the wall and use those as a sort of a makeshift low low damaging flail or something that's, makeshift weapons, right? And then they got to get out of there. They got to escape. But on their way out, do you throw them a bone and put a room with like a like an inventory room for like an evidence room where they could just go through and say, "Oh, wait a minute, here's your stuff in box number 12 in row 3. Yep, those are my magic items. Well, it's alphabetical. Your name's Sodiari, so look at the S's. We'll find your spell books." Yeah, okay. So you throw them a bone and let them have all their stuff back if they get almost out and get close to the exit, so that you could explain how they didn't lose anything. Monty Hall room number 2. Yeah, that's true. If you're gonna put all their stuff in a room, you've got to consider how much other stuff must be in there from other people that have been captured over time, because if this is some sort of a prison or some sort of a slaver's stockade or something like that, which is, I think, the trope they used in the old school adventure, then there have to have been others. You don't build a facility like that. I mean, I don't think you do for just one small group just before you capture them and then figure you're going to abandon it afterwards. There must be some stuff there, right? In that property room, evidence room, treasure room from all of your captures. Now, if we make the argument that there's nothing else there, yeah, exactly, Sarah. Do you think having the captors using their weapons would work better? Well, that's kind of the flip side of it, right? One of two things can happen if that stuff is not going to be where they can be had, and there's not going to be anything else there. Well, there's nothing else there because they don't leave stuff laying around. They put it to use, or they sell it, or they do something with it, trade it off to someone else for some other powerful items. Somehow that stuff doesn't just lay around. It's not a dragon horde where he's content just being the most powerful thing, doesn't need the magic items. They just become trophies, right? So if there's nothing else there, due to the fact that other stuff that had ever been captured has been sold off or whatever, so too their stuff must be inventoried, must be identified, must be figured out so that they can determine what to do with it next. Do individuals that are the captors keep and utilize some of these things? Do they get sold off? Are they in the process of doing that? And if you escape right away, you can recover some of this stuff. Those are questions that need to be considered. And as with all things GMing, put a clock on it. I always recommend having some sort of a time element to any situation, so that while it is static in a sense, it's dynamic also. So we know we're picking up in this moment. We're allowing them to regain their consciousness in the cell, if this is a kidnap situation, at some point, and then some certain number of days after they've been captured, there should be a reckoning regarding their equipment. Either somebody's coming that they regularly trade with or sell to, or some member of the organization of captors is going to claim this item or that item as this is going to make me better at the job of being a captor. So I can argue for, don't you want me to be able to capture things better? So leader of the fighting group, or certainly if there's an arcane caster, a magic user of some kind, Um, and I'm jumping around in additions with the terminology here, but if there's somebody that casts spells and there are spell books, you're going to want to look through those spell books. That's a given, right? A black magic market guild can be uncovered, leads to another adventure thread. Absolutely, that's a great idea. Yeah, you can definitely have tendrils out from this organization. They must have other contacts. There must be people that they sell off items to that they eventually intend to. Uh, if you capture somebody, there are a few ultimate outcomes to that situation. You'd kill them rather than capture them unless you wanted them alive for whatever reason. Maybe it's just so you can question them because you know that they've been someplace. That's a good premise, and it's probably the least onerous. We always have to acknowledge the fact that certain situations can be triggering for some people, so be sure to understand who you're playing with and what can happen in that regard. But setting that aside and knowing that when we talk to people about things like this, there is that understanding. Um, if they're being captured and kept alive, there's a reason for it. So they want to do something with it, whether it's question them about information they believe to, and they may have or not have that information. So they may or may not be the people they were attempting to capture. They may be just random people that have been captured, the PCs, and maybe the questioning of them, keeping them alive for questioning, is because they are random and they don't know who they are or where they've been, and they want to make sure that this is not a situation where there's some strike force, and if they get killed off, they're just going to be strike force after strike force sent after them to destroy this facility, this organization. So they need to know where they stand. So maybe they don't kill the party because of paranoia, right? It doesn't have to be a situation where they're captured with the intent of selling them into some form of slavery or putting them into some sort of a labor camp, mining or some other forced labor situation. So it doesn't have to be that grim. It can just be a circumstantial. They need to be questioned. Whoever is in charge of the questioning, or whoever has the best magical ability to do that questioning, maybe they need to pull in one of their agents who's a higher level cleric who can use certain spells to make sure that this questioning is the most fruitful, but they're not going to be back for a day or several days or a week, whatever timeline you want to put on it. So they're just being held until that one individual gets back. So there are a number of ways of approaching it and avoiding, even in a dire situation like this, avoiding certain tropes that can be beyond the pale for certain player groups. While we're there, though, let's talk about this. Is as tough as all of this is, it's one of the ways to avoid the TPK, which you would think would be more devastating, but there are things that go with this sort of alternative that can be just as devastating, or for some people more so. Um, it's like what is it? Tantalus? Is Tantalus the Greek tale of the punishment where they're up to their waist in water with a fruit tree next to them growing overhead, the boughs, but every time they reach for the fruit, the branches shift upward out of reach, and every time they lean down to get a drink of water, the water recedes such that they can never slake their thirst or satisfy their hunger. Um, maybe that was Prometheus's punishment. Yeah, I'm off on that one. I'm not sure. In any event, some punishments can be worse than others. Sometimes this stringing it out, making them struggle so much is worse than just finitely TPKing. So, if you're going to choose an alternative to a TPK or figure out a way out of a TPK, uh, let it be something that isn't worse if you can manage that. So understand your players and try to do that. So TPKs, I think we've covered them at this point. Um, kind of did the whole show on TPKs because the show's almost done. So let's talk about. Oh, I should keep reiterating this because never know how many people or who's going to be here on any given day, and we got a nice little group here today. So what I've been telling everybody is that with the new year, we're going to do a new format in a sense. Um, in that we're in December, we'll be going through the 21st. Monday, the 21st, will be the last show of the year. And I won't pick it up until 2 weeks later with January 4th. So I'll be off from the 21st till the 4th, another Monday. And January 4th will be first day of a new format. And that format will be just 2 shows a week, Monday and Thursday. And what I'll be doing is on Mondays, I'll be doing a sort of a outside the game. Weekly news and announcements, GM reviews, other things that are not in-game sort of focused. Thursday will be in-game. So I'll do, obviously, GMing tips, campaign, world building, cartography, adventure building, rules retrospective. I think should be on Thursdays too, since you have to discuss things in context. So all of that stuff will be kind of the Thursday in-game stuff, and then shows will almost invariably be a half hour or longer. So, and that is to say that those two, Monday and Thursday, 10 a.m., I think 10 a.m., I think we're going to stick with 10 a.m., will be the scheduled shows. I will also be trying to do more in the new year in regard to streamed shows. So start thinking about that, George, Sarah, all the rest of you, John, Rick, even if you care for it. I'll be looking to do some more streaming of shows. So, get that in your mind. Some shows require cameras. I don't know how necessary that is. I guess when you watch streamed shows, it can sometimes be useful to be able to see who's talking. But I don't know. If you have even just a avatar and you have it set up so that light flashes around your avatar when you're the one speaking, I don't know if that's probably just as good as a thing. We'll have to figure it out. There's a lot of logistics to figure out with that because I have not been on the doing end of that sort of streaming yet. I've been in several. I have not hosted any. Anyway, there you go. I think we're done for the day, right? We got to say happy Thanksgiving once again to everybody. Do yourself a favor. Do some giving and some thanking today. As much as you can and all through the weekend. Or what the heck. The rest of the year. Why not, right? For now, though, we'll be back again tomorrow at 10 a.m. with Building Adventures. Saturday, GM reviews, rules retrospective on Sunday, weekly news and announcements on Monday, cartography and world building on Tuesday, campaign discussion on Wednesday, and back around the horn to GMing tips next Thursday. If you're catching up with this on YouTube, Thank you very much. Please subscribe to the channel. Give us a thumbs up on any videos you watch and you enjoy. And thank you so much for being part of the live stream. Happy holidays to each and every one of you too. This has been the OK Grognard Show from beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Bye-bye.